She's not waiting, she's choosing, and that choice, that's what makes the world tremble. Let that land, my friends. Because we've been sold a lie for generations, that a woman without a man is unfinished, unlucky, or unchosen. But what if I told you that the most powerful love story isn't the one where she finds him? It's the one where she finally finds herself. Now, before we go deeper, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Not for me, for you. Because today, we're not talking about dating tips or fairy tale endings. We're talking about truth. The kind that wakes something up inside you. The kind that might just change the way you see your solitude. Hey ladies, imagine this. A lighthouse on a cliff. It's not chasing ships. It's not begging the ocean to notice it. It's just standing tall, still, radiant, because it knows its light is needed. That's her. That's the woman who lives alone without a man. She's not dimmed by her silence. She's defined by it. See, most people look at her and think she's lonely, but loneliness is being surrounded by people who don't see you. What she's got, that's not loneliness. That's clarity. That's choice. And that scares people more than you think. You've been told 1,000 times you need to settle down. Your clock is ticking. A woman's value is in what she gives to others. But let me tell you something they don't teach in school or sell in movies. A woman who gives to herself first, she's dangerous to a system that profits from her self-doubt. She's not cold. She just stopped setting herself on fire to keep other people warm. And you hear me? She's not out here bitter or broken. She's awake. And when a woman wakes up to her worth, the world starts scrambling to make her feel wrong for it. That's when the names start flying. Too picky, too independent, too intense. But what they really mean is too powerful to control. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's exactly what she's doing, becoming, not performing, not proving, not apologizing. And yes, I know what some of you are thinking. But doesn't everyone want love? Of course we do. But not at the cost of our soul. Not if it comes dressed in dependency, laced with ego, or dipped in silence we have to tiptoe around. She doesn't walk alone because she hates love. She walks alone because she loves herself enough not to confuse attention with affection or presence with partnership. This woman, she stopped begging to be chosen. She chose herself. And my friends, that changes everything. It's like that moment in a movie where the hero realizes the dragon isn't outside the castle. It's been living inside her chest the whole time. That fire, that truth, that's what she's learning to breathe again. So stay with me, because this isn't about isolation. It's about initiation. And where we're going next, it's not the story they've told you about strong women. It's the one they're too scared to admit because it breaks all the rules. If this message is speaking to something in you, if you feel that quiet yes rising up from your gut, don't ignore it like this video. Subscribe, not to follow, but to remember, because sometimes the loudest revolution starts in silence. And the woman who walks alone, she's not waiting to be saved. She's learning to soar. Number one, the silence she chose, not lonely, but free. Alone isn't empty, it's earned. Let that echo, my friends, because the silence she lives in, that's not some tragic backdrop to a love story gone wrong. That's the sacred space where she finally met herself without the noise, the pressure, the pretending. Imagine a concert hall after the music stops. Everyone's left, the lights dimmed, the echoes still lingering in the rafters. Most people panic in that stillness, but not her. She didn't rush to fill the silence. She sat in it. She listened. And for the first time, she heard her own voice. See, the world taught her that silence meant failure, that a woman alone must be incomplete, unwanted, left behind. But what the world forgot is that some women leave the noise on purpose. Because silence, it's not a sentence, it's a sanctuary. And yeah, maybe you've wondered too, will they think something's wrong with me? Am I missing out? What if this quiet never ends? But hear me, those questions aren't weakness. They're the beginning of awakening. Because when you strip away the background music of expectations, you start to notice the rhythm of your own heartbeat. And let's be honest, silence scares people. You know why? Because it exposes the truth. No more distractions, no more roles to play, just you, raw, unfiltered, unmasked. Most people spend their lives running from that kind of quiet, but she didn't. She made peace with it. She made a home in it. She turned the silence into a symphony of self-respect. As Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. And that's what this woman did. She stopped dreaming of being chosen and awakened to the power of choosing herself. Her silence isn't sad, it's sovereign. It's the soil where her roots dug deep. It's the fire that burned off everything that wasn't hers. It's the mirror where she saw her strength, not as a performance, but as a presence. And so the next time you see a woman who walks alone, don't assume she's lost. She might just be free. And stay with me, because where we're heading next is the number 2. She stopped performing and started existing. You don't need to sparkle to be seen, you just need to stand still in your truth. Let that sink into your chest, my friends, because there comes a moment in a woman's life when she realizes the stage she's been performing on was never built for her. The applause was conditional. The spotlight too narrow, the audience too distracted to notice her truth behind the costume. And so she stopped performing. Stopped shrinking her fire to keep the room from sweating. Stopped twisting herself into something digestible just to be swallowed and forgotten. Imagine a dancer mid-performance who suddenly freezes. Music still playing, crowd still clapping, but she just stands there, barefoot, still, real, not broken, done pretending. That was her. She no longer curates her smile for comfort, no longer edits her words for palatability. She's not trying to be easy to love, she's just being real enough to respect. And I know, some of you feel that tug in your gut, don't you? But what if I lose people? What if they call me difficult? What if nobody stays? Let me tell you something. If your authenticity sends someone running, let them go. That's not abandonment. That's alignment. She got tired of trading her fullness for scraps of approval. She got tired of compliments that came with strings, of being praised for how well she hid her rage, her brilliance, her realness. So she stopped. She peeled off the pretty, took the filter off her soul, and guess what? She didn't disappear. She finally showed up, like a mountain unmoved by weather, like truth that doesn't beg to be believed, like silence that doesn't ask for permission. She stopped walking into rooms trying to be liked and started walking into rooms checking whether she liked the energy there. That's power. Not loud, not showy, just solid. See, the world tells women, don't be too much. And she believed that until she realized she was never meant to be small. She was just surrounded by people who feared her fullness. As Denzel might say, look, ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. And she's done easing others' discomfort at the cost of her own soul. And so stay with me, because where we're going next and is the place she faced the very parts of herself they told her to hide and turn those shadows into gold. Number 3, she faced her shadow and found her power. The strongest women aren't fearless, they're fluent in fear and still move forward. Let that stir something deep, my friends, because while the world handed her distractions, she chose the mirror. While others scrolled, dated, drank, ran, she stopped. She sat still. In the quiet, in the ache, in the hollow echo of everything she had buried just to keep functioning. And what she found there wasn't pretty. It was raw, it was messy, it was her. Imagine walking into a room filled with old versions of yourself, the one who begged, the one who dimmed, the one who said yes when everything in her soul screamed no. She faced them all, not with judgment, but with presence. She didn't run, she remembered, she reclaimed. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And my friends, she got tired of calling her pain fate, so she stopped blaming love, stopped blaming men, stopped blaming timing, and started taking accountability for what she allowed, what she ignored, and what she was finally ready to transform. And I know what you might be thinking, but what if I go looking and don't like what I find? What if it breaks me? And what if healing means I have to change everything? Let me tell you something, it will change everything. And that's the point. See, she realized healing isn't about feeling better, it's about becoming better. Not perfect, not polished, just honest. And in that honesty, she found her edge, her roar, her power. This wasn't a bubble bath and journal kind of healing. This was screaming into pillows, falling apart at midnight, choosing not to text back because she finally knew what she deserved. It was a rebirth with no audience. And in that storm, something wild happened. She didn't shatter. She shed layers, lies, labels, until only truth was left. And now she doesn't wear armor, she wears awareness, because fear didn't leave. She just learned how to walk with it without giving it the mic. So stay with me, because next we're stepping into the fire of her fullness, the part they called too much, but turned out to be the very thing that made her unstoppable. Number 4, she's not difficult, she's whole. People don't fear her attitude, they fear her standards. Let that hit where it needs to, my friends, because when a woman rises into her wholeness, the world suddenly gets uncomfortable. Not because she's loud, not because she's angry, but because she's no longer willing to play small just to keep the peace. Men say she's too much. Women whisper she's too picky, but let's get real. What she actually is, is done. Done mistaking red flags for passion. Done translating mixed signals like a second language, done shrinking her needs just to fit inside someone else's convenience. She's not difficult, she's clear. And clarity, that's terrifying to people who've built their relationships on confusion. Imagine walking into a store, seeing a priceless item, and asking if there's a discount. The clerk says no, it's full price or nothing. That's her. She's not up for negotiation, she's not on clearance, she doesn't bargain with her soul. And I know what some of you might be asking, but what if I'm asking for too much? What if no one can meet me there? What if I end up alone? Let me tell you, asking for what you deserve is not too much. It's called alignment. And anyone who makes you feel like your standards are the problem probably benefits from your lack of them. She doesn't want a prince, she wants presence. She's not impressed by potential, she's looking for proof. And because she stopped chasing love and started embodying it, she now scares people who only know how to love through control, confusion, or chaos. They can't manipulate her, so they call her difficult. They can't predict her, so they call her cold. But the truth, she's just free. As Denzel might say, ease is earned through resistance. And she's been through enough resistance to stop explaining why she won't settle. She's not hard to love, she's hard to fool. Because now she listens with her energy, not just her ears. She watches patterns, not just promises. She doesn't clap for effort, she honors consistency. So stay with me, because next we're stepping into the kind of love she still believes in. Not a love that saves her, but a love that respects the fire she lit on her own. Number 5, she doesn't need love to feel enough. She needs truth. The only love worth waiting for is the one that doesn't ask you to trade your soul for security. Let that settle in your spirit, my friends, because she still wants love. Don't get it twisted. She still wants to be held, to be chosen, to feel that fire, but not if it costs her peace, not if it means dimming the very light she fought so hard to keep lit. She's not the woman who says, I don't need anyone out of pride. She says it out of clarity, because she's lived through the kind of love that takes more than it gives, the kind that flatters your ego but starves your essence. And now she's done calling that love, and she's not looking for a rescuer. She's not a damsel. She's the damn dragon, and she's looking for someone who doesn't flinch at the flames. And she's not asking to be saved, she's asking to be seen. Imagine being a painting, complex, textured, full of meaning, and people keep trying to crop you, frame you, simplify you. She's not interested in being someone's aesthetic. She wants to be someone's revelation. And yeah, maybe you felt it too, like that fear creeping in. What if I'm too much to handle? What if no one can meet me here? What if I end up waiting forever? But here's the thing, she'd rather wait in truth than live one more day in a lie. She'd rather be alone in authenticity than together in performance. Because love that silences you isn't love, it's survival with pretty packaging. She no longer craves butterflies, she craves belonging. The kind of connection that doesn't flinch when she's messy, that doesn't get intimidated when she's powerful, and that doesn't disappear when she gets quiet. As Denzel might say, you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too. And she's not afraid of the mud. She just refuses to walk through it alone anymore. She doesn't need love to feel enough. She is enough. And any love that enters her life now must know that, honor that, and add to that. And so stay with me, because where we're heading next, where is the stillness they call boring, but she knows it as peace. The sacred ground where her energy now lives, unbothered, unshaken, unapologetically whole. Number 6, her peace is not a luxury, it's her boundary. Don't mistake her quiet for absence, it's alignment. Feel that in your chest, my friends, because her silence isn't a retreat, it's a recalibration. She's not ghosting you, she's guarding her peace. She's not avoiding the conversation. She just finally realized not everything needs a reply. Not every moment needs to be defended. Not every wound deserves an audience. There was a time she explained everything, her tone, her boundaries, her silence. She used to write essays just to justify why she needed space. Now, she lets her energy do the talking, and because peace doesn't negotiate, it simply withdraws. Imagine a lake, still, deep, unmoved. That's her now. You can throw a stone, try to stir the surface, but the depth, that stays untouched. She's no longer interested in chasing clarity from people committed to confusion. No longer glued to her phone waiting for crumbs of validation. No longer performing emotional CPR on relationships that flatlined a long time ago. She's not cold, she's clear. And I know some of you feel that tension, but won't they think I don't care? What if I'm too quiet? What if they move on because I didn't fight hard enough? Let me tell you something, my friends. She's done fighting for the right to be respected and walking away in peace. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because peace isn't a luxury anymore, it's her boundary. If it costs her sleep, her voice, her softness, her sanity, it's too expensive. She's learned that sometimes silence is the most powerful exit. No drama, no fireworks, just presence, removed. As Denzel might say, you attract what you're ready for. And she's not ready for chaos, and she's not ready for games. She's ready for stillness that doesn't come with a storm hiding behind it. She's become the kind of woman who can be in a room, say nothing, and still shift the entire frequency. That's peace, that's power. That's the result of years spent learning to trust herself over the noise. So stay with me, because next we're stepping into something deeper. The moment where the world started calling her intimidating, but all she did was finally refuse to be interrupted. Number 7, she's a mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable. You either admire her or you run from what she reflects. Let that linger in the room, my friends, because this woman, she's a mirror, and not the flattering kind. She's the one that shows you what you've ignored in yourself. She doesn't have to say a word to shake the ground under people's feet. Her very presence disrupts the lie. She walks into the room and suddenly people start explaining themselves, not because she asked, but because her clarity exposes their confusion. She represents everything that makes others question their own comfort zones. A woman who doesn't chase validation, a woman who doesn't live in emotional debt, a woman who found peace in her own company and never apologized for it. She doesn't need attention to feel valuable. She doesn't need a relationship to feel complete. And that messes with people. She's the woman who sits alone at dinner, calm, radiant, unbothered, and others glance over nervously, wondering, how is she okay? She's the one who says no without a 10-minute explanation, and suddenly everyone's scrambling for meaning. She's the one who smiles in silence and people feel exposed, not because she's judging them, but because they're finally seeing themselves. She doesn't perform, she doesn't pretend, she doesn't participate in dynamics that drain her. And for people used to chaos, used to being chased, used to being needed, she's terrifying, because when you stop needing, you stop being controlled. And I know what some of you might be feeling, but won't people think I'm cold? Won't they misunderstand my silence? Won't I push others away? Yes, you might, but let them misunderstand it, because her life is no longer built around being understood. It's built around being true. As Denzel might say, you pray for wisdom, then get mad when it shows up as solitude. She doesn't run from that solitude anymore. She owns it. Because her solitude, it's not a punishment. It's her reflection pool. She's a mirror for the unlived life. And she's proof that wholeness is possible without a +1. And people will either honor that or project their fear onto it. But either way, she's not shrinking to make them feel safe. So stay with me, because where we're headed next is sacred ground, the part of her most misunderstood, the one people call boring, but she calls it by its real name, freedom. Number 8, her solitude isn't a phase, it's a promise. When you've made a home in yourself, everything else becomes optional. Then let that settle in your bones, my friends, and because this isn't a phase. This isn't a season she's trying to survive. This is a vow, a soul-level promise she made to herself the day she realized she was no longer willing to vanish in someone else's shadow. She's not avoiding love, and she's rejecting the kind that asks her to shrink in exchange for being chosen. See, they told her to soften, to settle, to compromise a little more, to give him a chance, even when her gut was screaming no. But she's not interested in being half of a connection that only looks whole on Instagram, and she doesn't need the illusion. She's tasted her own truth, and now she's fed by peace, not performance. Picture a tree that grows strong, tall, wild, because no one tried to trim it into shape. That's her, rooted in her solitude, reaching on her own terms. And when someone comes along, they don't complete the picture. They walk into a masterpiece that's already in progress. You see, she's not scared of love. She still craves touch, still longs to be seen, felt, held, but only by someone who meets her where she already stands, not someone who needs her to kneel first. And I know, but what if that love never comes? What if I end up alone forever? What if choosing myself means missing out? Let me tell you something powerful. It's better to be alone with your soul intact than to be together and slowly leaking pieces of yourself just to keep someone from leaving. She's walked that road, and now she's not walking away from love, and she's walking toward alignment, toward reciprocity, toward presence. As Denzel might say, don't just aspire to make a living, aspire to make a difference. And her life is doing just that by showing that wholeness is not a waiting room, it's a destination. She doesn't sit in solitude because she gave up. She sits there because she woke up. And when love shows up, it won't be a rescue, it'll be a recognition. So if you've been walking alone, and keep walking, and not because you're behind, but because you, my friend, are becoming. And if this stirred something in you, don't keep it quiet and hit that like button. Subscribe, not for the algorithm, for your evolution. Because this journey, it's not about finding someone. It's about never losing yourself again. If this message stirred something deep inside you, it's because you're not lost. You're waking up to your worth, your wholeness, your power. This journey of solitude isn't about absence. It's about alignment. So if you see yourself in these words, don't let them fade. Like this video, subscribe for more soul-deep truth, and share it with a woman who needs to remember her strength, not to be saved, but to be seen. Because when one woman rises, she lights the way for many. And my friends, you're already glowing. Stay grounded. Stay choosing you. I'll see you in the next one.